Good evening. Good evening for another episode of That Way. And I know it's been a minute. It's been a long month since our last episode, but I'm so excited to start and restart our conversations on education and liberation. You were introduced and welcomed by the tunes. One of my favorite songs, AT Aliens, Outcast. What were you doing that year when it came out? You don't gotta.
What year did Outcast come
The
out?
AT Aliens, that song probably came, what was that, 19? I should have looked
Late
up.
80s?
No, not that. No, she showed her age. I'm sorry, I haven't even introduced her. She showed her age. It's your host, Anthony Downer, and I'm going to introduce my guest for tonight very shortly. But let's center our conversation because it's been a minute. Last time we were here. What's up, Jason? Got a shout out to Jason Allen. Folks, before I forget, and I want to put this on the front end, Mother's Day is coming up. Sunday, May 8th. 8th, am I right? Will be Mother's Day. Yes, Sunday, May 8th will be Mother's Day. Go ahead and start your planning now. I want to shout out to my mom, who I owe a lot to. And I am continuing to honor and love on and care for. So shout out to my mom. Shout out to all the moms, the surrogate moms, the stepmoms, the grandmothers, the aunties. Shout out to the mother figures. We have to make sure that we center and celebrate our Black women and our mothers on this coming Mother's Day. That just is something that I had to say up front. And then, of course, as you know, we got to jump into what we're talking about tonight. Tonight is all about celebrating education, celebrating educators. Next week is Teacher Appreciation Week. And so tonight you have the opportunity to hear from two teachers with pretty similar teaching philosophies who are from, of course, different generations, me with much less teaching experience, but still we're going to have a very powerful and informative conversation. I want to open this up by talking about National Poetry Month. National Poetry Month. National Poetry Month has been a magnificent opportunity for us to center the joy and the charisma that comes from written words. I've had my students work on poems this month, and I'll be sharing some of those in next month's episode. But for now, here's our poem of the month. It comes from Langston Hughes. So we're celebrating, we have at our school the Harlem Renaissance as a precursor to today's Black Renaissance. His poem, Warning, reads thusly: Negroes, sweet and docile, meek, humble, and kind, beware the day they change their mind. Wind in the cotton fields, gentle breeze, beware the hour it uproots trees. Powerful. And we won't even take the time to analyze it. I think the words speak very clearly for themselves. And then, pursuant to some of our shared community agreements, I want to quickly share with you our Black History moment. Today in Black History, two big things happen with one of our ancestors, W.E.B. Du Bois. We know him, we love him. In 1903, he published The Souls of Black Folk, a very powerful presentation of this idea of double consciousness that Black people have to walk through America with. We can add that triple consciousness when you're talking about Black women or queer Black people or low-income Black people. And so we honor Father Du Bois for his work that we continue to study today. It was also on this day that he died in Ghana in 1963. And so we honor him. We continue his legacy. We continue to study and learn more about his work. Indeed. But you're not here to hear me talk the whole time. We have a lot to cover. We don't have a lot of time to do it. As you know, we have 30-minute episodes. But right now, before we jump into our main course, please please share, please continue to engage with us, ask questions in the chat box. Thank you to those on Facebook and YouTube who are joining us, and we will continue to engage with Instagram as well. But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me, without further ado, introduce this beautiful scholar right next to me, Dr. Alicia Borishade. Dr. Borishade, can you introduce yourself?
Well, I most certainly can. I'd like to first thank my colleague and my friend, my mentor as well, for the invite to share on this platform. As you know, Anthony Downer is an amazing, incredible voice for our community, not only as an African American man, but as an African American educator, someone who's a change agent, an abolitionist, an advocate. I love it all. In short, I am a teacher and a leader, and I love learning. The past 29 years of my career has mostly been in administration. I've spent most of the last 2 decades as an instructional leader, first in Fulton County schools, and then most recently leading uh, public government schools in the United Arab Emirates in Abu Dhabi as part of an international reform. So during COVID, I had the opportunity, and I was telling you about this, one of the most unexpected, incredible surprises of my professional career happened the month of the global pandemic. And at that time, the president asked for expats to make a decision to settle in place or to come home. Well, with aging parents, with grown children here, but my family here, I wasn't sure which way to go. So I decided to stay here. Borders closed, fast forward. I started teaching. I needed to work. Various HR departments reached out to me to consider leadership. I thought that I would be here for a year, and I really wanted to reconnect with the reason why I started teaching. And what better opportunity was it to work at Frederick Douglass High School? I requested Frederick Douglass with Atlanta Public Schools. I requested to teach social studies curriculum because I am a history buff. I love it. And this is where I met this wonderful man. And I have just had my fifth dream job, teaching. And lastly, I want to say I'm in a very unique position in that my nearly 30-year career has been, as I mentioned, leading schools strategically, leading the community, leading teaching and learning as the instructional leader. I am a classroom teacher, and so the lessons in leadership I'm excited to share about.
Absolutely. So we have quite a treat because if you missed it, Dr. B started as a teacher, uh, quickly became an administrator, and for this year and the past school year has been a classroom teacher again. And that's not an experience that a lot of educational leaders have had, right? Once you go up the totem pole or up the ladder, you don't come back down. You don't look back. And so it sounds like this has been a humbling experience. And so we're going to talk a little about that. Let's go back to the beginning. I met Dr. Borishade. I had just gotten to Frederick Douglass High School, didn't know anyone, started pre-planning. Didn't know anyone in almost across APS, really. No one at Doug had started pre-planning. And I think you came maybe the third day of pre-planning.
Right.
And she starts immediately hugging everyone. And I say, if someone don't get their auntie, I don't know who this woman is. She comes up and she hugs me. I'm already feeling like, still trying to get to know everyone. And so she comes and just off the bat. And I remember, we're going to keep it real, y'all. They were talking mess about Dr. B. Dr. B was not the most popular member of the social studies department. And I would hear, well, you got to watch out for Dr. Borishade. And specifically, she just does things differently. And it's very weird. And to me, I was excited. I said, oh, you think outside the box? Because I think at that point, my colleagues, what they now know is that I am anything but the normal teacher. And I make my own rules up as we go. And so that's why Dr. B and I got along so well off the bat, because we could have these large and complex conversations about education that went beyond the standards,
Right.
that went beyond the directives coming from administration, that went beyond the normal mindset of a teacher. And talking to someone who had become a principal and had her own school and taught with different populations of students across Metro Atlanta, she obviously was someone I could learn from. And one of my priorities coming from Gwinnett County Public Schools was to remain teachable. And so I've really enjoyed all the conversations, all the work with Dr. Borishade. And I'm glad we had that relationship,
Right.
because we have had a very turbulent year at Frederick Douglass High School, which we've talked a little bit about before, but let's dig into it.
Right.
So we come back. This is you taught at Doug during virtual.
I did.
It was all virtual. You had a brand new Principal Portee. So when I came August 2021, this was the first time in 2 years that the students had been in the physical building. The first year that Principal Portee was in the building as principal. Nearly new administration. 63% of the teaching staff is new. What's on your mind as you're coming into the school year, as you're coming into the building? What's on your mind?
Well, it's interesting that you should say that, because you mentioned something about being teachable. And that's what this is about. Every single educator, every person in life, my philosophy is very clear. We have to be teachable, to learn, to unlearn, to relearn. We have to do these things. So what was on my mind was learning as much as I could learn about the community. It's a very unique community. And to master the curriculum. Although I love history, I was teaching world history for the first time. And lastly, it was to do my absolute best to impact the culture at the school. As you know, everything begins with culture, and climate, everything does. I was hoping for the best, but actually, after such an unexpected year of the pandemic, we were kind of experiencing PTSD. We didn't know where the next shoe would fall. So just being able to support myself and to support my colleagues and to also support the administration, because truth be told, my connection is really in leadership, because that's what I've been doing. And I, being in this unique position, spent the first year just trying to get my bearings, but trying to develop relationships with my colleagues and the other staff members. So I could see from my very unique perspective pitfalls, challenges, things down the road, that if these things did not happen, then this would be a crisis at a later time. When I think back at the beginning of the year, and actually, I believe, Anthony, was more than 63% new staff. I believe it was closer to 80%, but I could be wrong.
Maybe including the staff members, like beyond the classroom educators.
Yes, perhaps.
We gotta check the numbers.
I think it was relative, like almost a brand new staff. The entire admin team was new within 2 years. And I believe about 85%, 90% perhaps of the total teaching staff were new. Now, from a leadership perspective, I was excited actually, because I'm thinking, what a golden opportunity when you're wanting to build a new culture, when you're wanting to make a difference, who has that type of opportunity to start something from the ground floor, to build relationships, to set a shared collaborative vision, to build relationships, to invest people, all your stakeholders in your vision. What better opportunity than that? And so I was a bit taken back, and I voiced this. The beautiful thing about being 55 and nearly 30 years in this business is that you can say whatever you want to say, as long as you are respectful as you say it. So when the way we connected, as I said, you you're an outside of the box thinker. You
Mhm.
are an innovative, effective teacher. And this is what I think teaching and learning post COVID is about. This prescriptive um, method of teaching does not serve our students well. I don't really believe it serves any population well, but especially our population of students. So every day it's like a challenge. You're challenging yourself to see what is the thing I can do that would engage my students to learn necessary skills and content that will help them be a scholar and become an important citizen and a member of our community.
Yeah.
So this is I had very high hopes, and there were some disappointments along the way, but we embrace a growth mindset, don't we?
Yes. Growth mindset all the time. You
Yes,
taught me that.
yes, it's important.
You've definitely helped me with that, and
Mhm.
she has done it from an African centric perspective, which is what this show is all about, right? But what I also appreciate is that a lot of teaching, we take a lot of things personally. We take the students going off on us personally. We take miscommunication from the administration personally, and that has been a growth area for me. But also, it's been funny because, and I share with this with you all on the podcast. I don't mean to be reductive. I don't mean to be stereotypical of what happened at Doug. I do mean to be authentic and real. S has hit the ceiling this year. We've had a fire. We've had a protest and a walkout. We've had a principal change. It's just been very turbulent. Let me tell you this though. It does not matter what happens in the building. When you go to Dr. Borishade, she don't know. I'll come down lunch. Hey, we had all these fights. Did you hear this happen? Did you hear this happen? No, I wasn't there with my kids, and it was just me and my kids. She's just so laser focused
You have
on
to
the
be.
students and on the instruction because I think I'm assuming after
Mhm.
30 years you realize
Mhm.
my sanity is and my peace and joy are way
Yes,
more important
yes,
than
yes,
whatever fight is
yes,
happening,
yes,
even inches from my
yes,
door.
yes,
Which
yes,
is for me, this year has all been about reacting. Oh, this
yes,
happened. Oh, I gotta
yes,
react to
Anthony.
it.
Yes,
Um,
yes. And
how to have you prioritize that kind of mindset?
well, let me tell you, I've always kind of had this mindset, but here's the interesting thing. It is something that every teacher must have because teachers are asked and expected to do so much. Well, guess what? One of my colleagues in our social studies department said teachers have two hands. Two hands. We're human. We have two hands. So if you're asked to hold six things with your hands, you have two hands that you can probably hold things nicely and comfortably and effectively if it's this size, right? If you have, what's going to happen to the other things that are large enough to fit, just large enough to fit in one hand? What happens to them? So you can try to figure out how to juggle, or you can focus on the two most important things. And for me, the important matter are students. The students that I am entrusted with, they have to have the majority of my energy. So there's only so much time. And this practice of teachers uh, being considered saints and working long hours, working 50 hours and 60 hours as an administrator, that was just the expectation. I had to apologize to many a staff abroad and home on my very disrespectful attitude toward teachers' home life and the imbalance of work and
Mhm.
home. This social emotional intelligence is such an important thing for a school leader to have. And as I continue to grow, and I really believe every principal should spend time in the classroom. If you haven't spent time in the classroom in the last 3 years, mm, you might be bordering on becoming irrelevant. And this is what we talk about in the research agenda. How can you lead and you have no clue what it takes to be a teacher? You are disconnected from the students. You are disconnected from the expectations of teachers, which is very easy for principals and assistant principals to give direction and directives. And I used to expect teachers would read emails 3 times a day. It's simple, right? Morning, noon, and before you leave. Hey, hey,
Yeah, how many
hey.
times I go? Hey, did you do that? We were supposed to do this by
And the
this day.
sun still shines. Now, I'm not saying that this is something that every teacher should do, but I am saying this: whatever it takes for you to be okay, whatever it takes for you to first and foremost be present for your students and be well for your family and yourself, do that. For me, I have to cut off work at a certain time. For me, when I'm at work, energy is a currency. And another colleague
And it's so
said this,
expensive.
and it's very expensive.
Mhm.
So you have to use your energy carefully and wisely. So it's a no brainer for me. And the other part is that what I realize is that you focus on what you want and don't stress about what you want. Don't continue to talk about those negative things, those challenges, because that's energy that you're exerting. Focus on what you want it to be like. Focus on the culture that you want to see. Focus on how you want your colleagues to be, to treat, to operate, and interact with you. And then you do that. So what will happen is the focus then, your light will overcome the darkness.
Mm.
You understand?
Wow. Oh,
Because
yes,
it's
ma'am.
serious. This is serious business what we're doing.
Absolutely. And so first of all, you all are just getting a little bit of a nugget. This is part one of we have 5 minutes left already.
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 I talk a
But
lot.
this is
Did I
no,
talk?
you have been
Okay.
you have been serenading the people.
Okay.
Okay. You have been poetic in your delivery to the people. You have been feeding the people.
Mm.
What I get to right at this point, I kind of take it for granted. I'm like, oh, here she goes. And so, and I want to go back when she says, "Oh, we just got the okay, we'll keep going. Okay, we know this." When she talks about the research projects, we are not just educators, but we are academics. We're scholars in this work, and that we're researching. We're using our students as exemplars. We're perfecting our craft. We're practitioners. She has a PhD, and so whether or not our school districts, our school leaders recognize what we bring to the table, we're going to continue to kill in the classroom.
Mhm.
But that requires research, that requires practice. And we don't just want to keep the secrets that we and the gifts that we have in our classrooms, we want them to spread.
Mhm.
We don't share that.
Mhm.
And so we appreciate the colleagues that work with us. Dr.
Mhm.
Borishade has become a strong partner in agitating and disrupting within this system. Um, how else, when we talk about our research agenda and our priorities, when we talk about serving the students at Doug,
Mhm.
what other priorities are we focused on?
I think that this inquiry based learning approach is something that every teacher must master. You see, the way that, and it's not just at Frederick Douglass, it is not just in America, it is worldwide. We are teaching in a way, most teachers teach in a way, this prescriptive way. When we look at standards of what we want students to know, understand, and be able to do, we're looking at focusing on creating a workforce that was comparable, to pre-industrial type era.
Mhm.
There is zero content that I can teach one student about world history that they cannot go to any research engine and research and investigate, whether they're using Google, that research engine, or Galileo, Britannica, Learning 360, any number of free platforms that they can use to uh, understand and learn about a topic. What I see as my role and my colleagues' role is to focus more on what should we do in terms of helping students to know what to do with information. Information is everywhere. It's everywhere. So, what information is important to know? How do you find this information? And how are you going to use the information to impact your life, your community, your world? We have the capacity to do that with technology. This podcast is an amazing platform. Students can be content creators. This is what many schools are doing. Why are we not able to do this in our communities?
Mhm.
We can. We have such artistic young students. They are quite creative. They have big personalities. So we need to focus on teaching them how to communicate, how to code switch, even how to present, how to think creatively, how to problem solve, how to work collaboratively. These are skills that are not new to our profession. This has been part of our teaching and learning discourse for some time, but it has not been taught effectively because I believe more times than not, teachers will rely on uh, past methods instead of looking at problem based learning, project based learning. I think it is so important for students to buy into and have a voice in what they want to learn. Um, there are ample opportunities for students to grow. If they're bored in your class, then it's our role to figure out what excites them and what motivates them. So every day looks very different for me. And sometimes I can nail it and sometimes I can't. Right now, this very moment, I have two scholars waiting. I dare not disappoint my colleague here. Two, you would think they're hall monitors. They're paid by the school. They walk the halls every day. Am I
Every
right?
day, every
Every
day.
day, every period, everybody knows them. They walk the halls, these two girls, plus their posse. Now, in fairness to the school administration, I'm really actually excited about the year. I'm just excited about the year, the vision. We see what is happening. And as long as I can see progress, I'm happy. However, um, going back, I'm sorry, to the students, I don't know if it's because they don't have time to interact because they eat inside the classrooms now.
And the classes are back to back to back to
Right.
back. And when they're in the hallways, move, keep moving, keep
Yes.
moving.
So I don't know if they've just said, forget it, we're just going to, I don't know. But what I do know is that addressing concerns nicely, respectfully, letting the students know that you care, speaking their love language, speaking their love language, letting them know you care, whether it's buying them some food, noodles, I know it's processed food, but sometimes on a teacher's salary, or the 4x4, or speaking something nicely to them quietly, encouraging them in front of the whole class, focusing on what they're doing well and not what they're not doing well, and making a big deal about that. Uh, correcting them privately and praising them publicly. Everyone loves
Yes.
praise. I don't care
Yeah.
what anyone says. We all do. I
Mhm.
don't care how old you are.
Yeah.
If their love language is just a hug, a touch, just to let them know. Some students have never had someone tell them that they love them. I was shocked
Yeah.
at the response that you get when you tell a scholar, I love you, and they know that you're serious and you care about them. So we can't take these things for granted. And what the point of making sure that each individual scholar sees that they know that you see them is job number one. And then from there, that relationship builds and you can move forward with figuring out, okay, now how are we going to take this standard and unpack it in such a way that the student is excited about it and engaged and uh, allows them opportunities to build their skills as they're moving through. I
Yeah.
think that's important. And that takes a lot of time.
But she's a
It
master
takes a lot of
teacher.
time.
She's a master teacher at this. I have had the opportunity to go to her classroom a lot of times. Let me just briefly tell you about this. We do have an audience question that I want to focus on, but today was a very productive day. We are in the middle of the dreaded milestones, but that's not what we're going to talk about tonight. We're here to talk about some joy. I sat in her classroom all day today, and we had 3 hour blocks while the freshmen today tested. So she has sophomore students. And I watched, first off, when I first came to Doug, a lot of teachers told me they focused on the deficits of our students. Our students can't read. Our students can't write. This is what our students can't do. Oh, don't talk to them about pronouns. They're not ready. Oh, don't do this. They talked to me about what they could not do. And every single day that I've worked, our students have wowed me with what they can do, especially because not a lot of people can or do focus on what they can do, what they're able to do, what expectation or standard that is high and scaffolded enough they can reach. I think today, she had scholars as early as 9:30 a.m. As one scholar said, my brain's not awake yet. It's not working yet. She had them sit in a Socratic seminar. She had them prepare for presentations. She had them present on their exploration, their month-long exploration on the impact of World War I. The students were teaching students. They were able to embed their criticality and their joy and their personality and their interest in their presentations. They were able to work with their peers. They were able to use the vernacular of students to deconstruct the standard and a lot of the vocabulary that comes around with it. And only a few times did students have their phones out. Only a few times did they step outside of these agreed upon shared community agreements, and they were very gently reminded to step back within. Sometimes not even by her. I'm not sure if you picked this up, but sometimes by other scholars. Afterwards, we spent an hour and a half with our Beta Club scholars. A few Doug's students. We have about 20 Doug scholars that are on fire about community service and student leadership and have been using every single week. If you told us I was in Beta Club in high school, if you told us we had to meet every week, I'm sorry, I got AP exams.
Yes.
They meet every single week. The officers meet twice a week in order to give back to their community, right? They're talking about in what is considered the most struggling high school in the district, one of the poorest zip codes in the state. They're talking about donating bags to the homeless or the houseless. They're talking about that. I've learned that when you come into these spaces, the words equity and justice, those don't hold as much weight as you think. They need to feel it. Stop talking about it. They need to feel it. They need to see it. They need to be a part of it, and they want to lead it.
Yeah.
These are the students talking about solutions to gun violence. These are the students talking about solutions to sex trafficking and gang activity. So going back to one of our questions, when we're talking about centering students, just like we made the point on this platform before, we're not vessels for students. We are here to put students at the forefront. We don't speak on behalf of students, we speak with students. Our classrooms are decolonized to the point where our students are fellow practitioners. And so we have learned, and I think some of our colleagues, it took them a few years. It took you 2 years. What are the struggles of students? We've had a lot of opportunities. I will say in my classroom, we do a lot of journaling. When the principal reportee, when the protests happened, we tied it to the social contract theory and to our conversations around enlightenment ideas. We have healing circles. We just did this activity on yesterday where the students shared what brings them stress, what brings them peace and joy, what recharges them. And we had a healing circle around that. And with these, we're not talking, it doesn't always have to be tied to a lesson or a standard. Sometimes it's just human and relationship building. They will open up about what they want. They want better food. They don't want to have to walk through a metal detector when they walk in. They want to be able to eat lunch in the cafeteria outside. They want teachers that they know and feel care about them. They want a consistent principal and not 11 principals in 10 years.
They want water.
They want water. They want water because our water fountains are off due to the pandemic. These are basic things. And sometimes as equity advocates, we're not talking about these things.
Yes.
We're talking about curriculum and big picture and they want the basic stuff.
Bloom's taxonomy. Now, here's the point. And I'm so excited to have myself as a case study. So I journal every day. I started the very first day of planning in 2020 in July. And sometimes I write one word. Sometimes I might write five pages. It is just so eye-opening to me to see simple shifts, simple things that can be done either systemically or within the local school's authority, the school-based approach. Simple things. For example, in your strategic plan, you should at least have two things before you even start talking about curriculum and instruction and teaching and assessment. Two things you need to have. First and foremost, you should have some objective that addresses teacher support and teacher retention. Many schools, and I believe it's a large majority of schools, do not have sufficient teachers. And the research is very clear. Over 55% of teachers are thinking about leaving their profession at the end of this year. So who's going to replace them? So in my mind, it's very simple. You need to figure out how to keep your teachers, whether they are emerging, established, accomplished, or foundation. If they are there, figure out what they need and what support looks like. And don't let it be lip service, because teachers are brilliant. They know exactly what they need and want. We know what type of professional learning would be effective for us. We know because we are reflective educators. Now, the second thing is regarding students and what students need. Mm-hmm. That second objective in every school improvement plan, every strategic school plan should be something framed around student childhood trauma, how to support, how to be present for students. Ask them what they want and need. They will tell you. They will tell you. So if you have one water fountain for 300 students and there are no cups, for example, that could cost 99 cents, you can buy one from every school. You could buy one for every student in your building. You can do that for under $1,000, $1,500. Have the students have a cup. They ask 20 times a day if I have cup. They're dehydrated.
They're dehydrated. And how do we not see the link?
This is simple.
How do we see? What's up, Tanisha? I'm sorry.
Hello, Tanisha. This is simple.
This is simple, y'all.
They want teachers to connect with them. In high school, the interesting thing about it is that students do not want teachers to tell them what to do. They would like for you to provide a safe, engaging, fun learning experience for them. And they could tell you what that looks like. They're brilliant. We don't get everything right. And so teachers need to understand, parents, all stakeholders need to understand that no one does everything right the first time. It takes a while for us to get this thing right. And so I think expectations across the spectrum should be revisited. But definitely those two pieces need to be addressed in any school improvement plan.
This is brilliant because once again, we can sit here and tell you our opinion. We're telling you what we have heard straight from the babe's mouth. And so this is what the work is about. When we do our research, all of this is informed by students. And I'm not talking about students from the last century and the last decade, students right here today,
Right.
because as Dr. B said, you could have all these degrees and all this work and all this research around students, but what about the students today? And I'm grateful to have students from two very different or almost very different student populations
Yes.
to talk about and think about.
Mhm.
We have some audience members with some great questions that I want to center. Someone asked earlier, what about the experience of teachers? I think it was, if I remember, and I just want to emphasize things that Dr. B said. It's not about us tonight, but I will say this: the learning environments of students are the same as the working environments as teachers.
Mhm.
There's no difference. I spend all day. They're in my face, I'm in their face all day. Okay, it's not different. Unlike a principal or an administrator, I can't separate myself from the students and go sit behind my desk. My desk is in front of another desk, and a scholar sitting right there. That's my office. There's a saying: if you do not feed your teachers, they will eat the students. Not physically and in reality. That's not real. Okay. Oh, I thought we were fasting. Hold on.
I know, right?
We fasting. But anyway, so we'll move on from there. Someone mentioned a workforce development center. Absolutely.
Yes.
I think the statistic is about 60% of our graduates
Mhm.
do not go to a traditional 4-year college,
Yes.
if I'm correct.
And that's okay.
And that's absolutely okay.
Mhm.
So why are we still preparing them for college?
Mm.
Why are we not changing our classrooms and our school schedules and our course offerings and our resources to
To
then
fit the world that they are going to enter.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
We know
Absolutely.
that most of my
Mhm.
generation,
Mhm.
Generation Z, Generation Alpha, they will be less likely to enter a 9 to 5 job,
Mhm.
more
Mhm.
entrepreneurial,
Exactly.
more self-sufficient. We have students now that are starting LLCs. I
Yes.
just started my LLC
Yes.
this year. I
Yes.
have
Yes.
15, 16.
Yes.
Hey, Mr. Dowdy,
Yes.
you want to see my
Yes.
business? And my
Yes. And
Come
teaching
on.
financial literacy.
Financial
And
literacy.
it is so it's easy for us. It's clear. The writing is on the wall.
Mhm.
The issue is we have to have a sense of urgency about action.
Yeah.
Because we have generations of kids that are coming through, and so if no one feels the need to take responsibility and be accountable, I'm not the principal, I am a teacher. You are a teacher. We are on the ground floor. So I honestly believe that teachers have way more power in terms of impacting students
Mhm.
than anybody else. Because your classroom is the environment. As you say, I don't know what's going on. I can't know what's going on. I can't.
Yep.
Uh, but in my classroom, I can control. I can control what's happening in my classroom to help benefit students. Um, I think it's very important for us to look at policy development,
Yeah.
and for us to look at systemic change,
Yeah.
and for us to stay in tune with research that exposes the deficits of school leaders, not as an ugly thing, but because until we have we talked about this morning, these courageous conversations, you have people who are not socially, emotionally intelligent running schools.
Yeah.
You making decisions.
Yeah.
You have fortunate enough for us. I'm very comfortable with our principal. I think she is quite socially, emotionally intelligent, and she is a person who understands continuous growth. We all have missteps, like we need water. We all have missteps. We can list, but we each can grow and learn and be teachable.
That's
And
right.
for me, I think that's very, very important.
I'm gonna leave it. I'm not gonna add to that. I'm just gonna leave it there. But I also want to say this. Thank you, Tanisha. Financial literacy is so important. They need to be taught this, and they will like it because it is something they will use. I walked my students through how to do taxes. So I used TurboTax. Taxes were due recently, so I sat down and I showed my students. I had all my paperwork. I had my W-2. Yes. Am I right?
Yes.
Whatever paperwork.
Yes.
I had all my medical expenses. I had everything that I could put in there.
Yes.
And it was eye opening for a lot of students. Number one, they said, "Wow, it's that simple."
Yes.
No one has ever walked through that. Two big questions that we have to talk. Have any school board, city, and our other leaders visited the schools and communities? I want to be very honest with this. Yes. When we had a leadership transition, the superintendent and her executive team visited. We've had T.I. And Killer Mike being an alum. We've had the new mayor, Mayor Dickens, visit.
And the previous
mayor, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, being an alum. But these visits are very structured. They're very tightly closed. And those leaders do not meet with the average student. They meet with the top students. They meet with the high flyers. They meet in a smaller section of the campus. They usually don't get a walk around to see what's happening. Otherwise, they will see the fight of the day, or the large number of students are skipping, or the students that are trying to look for water, or the students that are hungry, and they will see what really is happening. So my question is, based on these visits, I'm not sure if those leaders know exactly what's happening in our schools. But they will very shortly be getting some letters from my students and other students to really talk about what's going on this year and how we can solve those. And what can community members do? What is the responsibility of community members? For my parents, when I talk to my parents, I don't talk about equity. I'm not talking about, hey, can you meet me at the board meeting? And we start where they are. Number one, it's incumbent on teachers not just to reach out to parents in crises, not just to call mothers who are themselves traumatized and busy to give them bad news, but to deliver, as I witnessed today in Dr. Borishade's class, to deliver good news, uplifting news. Here's progress. Here's something good that your scholar did. We need our community members to help us with the resources that our schools can't meet the needs, like water bottles. I don't know, water bottles, workforce development, coming into the school for mentoring, helping us to stop fights and stop security threats. The community can help with that too.
Partner with teaching and learning, project-based learning, problem-based learning. Yes, we tap into expertise around different areas and fields as we're teaching and having speakers come in. I know the pandemic really halted a lot, although it opened the world to us, because even at that point in time, we could do Zoom meetings and have experts come and talk about from different organizations to talk about a particular essential question that we're focused on. There are so many opportunities for community members and different organizations to partner with the school. I will also say, just kind of circling back to, I look at things through the lens of leadership. When you were talking about the simple things, going back to what leaders could do, the expectation that is placed on teachers to support and differentiate for their scholars. School leaders must adapt that same expectation.
Hey, say it again.
Teachers are different. We are all different, but we have one thing in common. We are committed. Our job is to support students. It is not to make administration's job easy. It is not to clean buildings. It is not to pacify parents. Our priority, and we have a job description, but again, remember I told you, you gotta focus and prioritize. The most important thing for a teacher is to ensure that his or her students are safe, they are connected, they are engaged, and they are learning and developing. Now, If it takes all your energy, as it does mine most times, to make sure that happens, oh, I sleep well at night. I sleep well at night. But school leaders, hear me. What you must do, and we talk about this, I collected data. Wow, the first 8 months after the pandemic began, it was
What did it come?
fire. One of the things that teachers, and it was an international bit, one of the things that we talked, I had teachers from everywhere, from Japan, from the Emirates, from Saudi Arabia, from various states in America, from Costa Rica, from places in Europe, Australia. These teachers had a common theme, and the common theme was that they again need school leaders who are understanding and who are socially, emotionally intelligent. Because if you are those things, then you yourself can prioritize things. You have to be brave and courageous enough to think outside of the box, to protect your teaching staff, to make sure that you're differentiating for them. What my needs are different than his. Do you know what my needs are? The only reason why my administration knows what my needs are is because I verbalize
Oh,
that.
and verbalize she does. I
New
think
teachers don't do that.
right, and I
Many
think
teachers, and we have to speak so we can do better. I'm sorry.
that's right. No, I'm so sorry because
No, no, no.
guys, I did not mean to cut you off.
No, no.
I think the broadcast cut off. So thank you all so much for joining us for another Wednesday, That Way Wednesday. We will be back
For sure.
next month. And she's gonna be back. We got to give her a whole segment or something, right? Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you
you.
from
Good
the
night.
research agenda.
All right.